All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this next episode of Elify Interviews. I'm super excited, Guy, as always, because anytime we get an opportunity to connect with a thought leader, learn wisdom, and then see how that can be applied within our professions, within our roles, within our industry to help us move forward, it's extremely powerful. And today's guest is no exception to that. It's Kimberly Lai, somebody we've been working with on the social media side of things. And we understand how important social media is in the digital age that we're all in, where I know everybody spends so many hours a day on their phones. It's hard not to look around and not see people in front of their mobile devices. And most of them are just scrolling, which tells me they're on social media. And one of the things I know we talk a lot about is if we're connecting and sharing information about ourselves, our products, our brands, our services, we have to connect with people and get their eyeballs in front of that material. And there's one person that's been helping us do it here at Elify, and that's Kimberly. And I've been blown away by the results of that. So Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us for today's interview. We can't wait to hear your story and pick up some of that knowledge that you have to drop on us as we go through today's interview. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it over to Guy here and started.
Super excited for this one. Super excited because this is not ER in my wheelhouse. And we've learned that over these years. And we found who we believe is the perfect match for Elify and who is a wealth of knowledge in the social realm, just like you're saying, but just marketing, the mind of information in different strategies, things that we can do to get the information out about what we do, but also in turn, how Kimberly has helped so many people probably within our own community spread her wealth of knowledge. Kimberly, you own No Boundaries Creative Outlet, which we also want to plug in there, make sure people can connect with you that way. But thank you for a little bit of time. I know you're traveling. This is the world of being able to do things virtually and digitally, but being able to have you on today where we appreciate it so much that you've taken some time to do this with us today.
No problem. I'm excited. Glad to be here.
Well, I'll kick things off with my first question, and it's sort of sarcastic. I tend to be that way, but you've probably been doing this your whole life, Kimberly, right? Like you came out of the womb knowing social and how to do everything, or at least that's how it feels for us. Like Guy said, we don't know the first thing about social. Tell us a little bit of the backstory. How did you get started?
Well, honestly, I went to school. I'm a Georgia Bulldog, so I'm just going to shout them out there. Sorry, football boys, but I got to take the year while I can, right? Or my past 2 years. I actually went to school starting thinking I was going to be in accounting. I have a very mathematical brain. So I've been kind of considered a unicorn. I ended up taking, I think it was a media class that you were supposed to learn how to place your media. And that was more in an elective. And I thought, okay, well, that's kind of math. You have to figure out where you put it in. And then somehow I was like, ooh, copywriting. And I started being a writer and I got into that and disappointed my parents extremely in the fact that I left, safe accounting as the goal to go into advertising, which they're like, oh, I don't know about that. But I really like the creativity it offered me, but it's measurable. So I was able to pull my accounting back into it. So I could see when you let your creativity fly, does it flock or is it really flying against the measurable statistics? And so my background started out in marketing, and I worked for marketing agencies all over the DFW area for 12 years before I left marketing because I thought it was really hectic and I wanted to be my own boss, right? I wanted to be my own business. And I had an opportunity with my father who had a location that I could turn into my own private dog boarding and ended up opening up chains there. But as a small business owner, you have to do your own marketing. So I was able to pull back on everything that I was doing. And I mean, I worked for big businesses, Coca-Cola, B2B, American Heart Association. So to fine tune it into a small business that doesn't have any budget, you have to get creative. And social media came on the scene about the same time. Honestly, who was before Facebook, guys? Help me out. MySpace. So I started on MySpace. Okay. So the Bungalows got a MySpace out there. And that's where it started picking up traction. People were seeing, how do you use this? And then Facebook came along. And I used it more. People wanted to see vacation pictures, right? I met the audience where they're at. So that's the biggest takeaway from there. And so I don't go into too much detail here. The biggest thing in marketing, the biggest thing you can do, and why social media is where it's at right now, is because that's where your audience already is. I'm pretty sure on the Today Show, and this is not a verbatim statistic, but 2 hours the average American spends scrolling Instagram or TikTok. 2 hours in their day. Okay, I know that's true for me because I'm working/researching. I go down the rabbit hole just like everybody else does, right? Like, how did I get here? But that's part of it. You want to be where they are and you meet them there. So what are they doing? Everybody's out there because TikTok is the rage right now, right? Whether it's going to be banned, whether it's not going to be banned, doesn't matter. That's where the trends start. The trends then trickle down into Meta, Instagram, and Facebook, which they're partners and together. So everybody wants to start the trend on TikTok and help it filter down. Because TikTok is not necessarily where all of your clientele are. It depends on who you're trying to reach. But again, you don't want to think about it from your business. You want to think about it from their personality. And then how does your business match and meet their personality? When you're walking around like ER, what's your favorite thing to do?
I like to
Give me one of them.
I like to be outside, like hiking.
Okay, so hiking. So then that's what I'm saying. If you're my ideal client and say hiking is where I want to be, then I want to go and find something that appeals to you. So I would want to do something that was in the hiking genre, something that was outdoors, even if what I'm trying to sell you is a toothbrush. Like, you have to use it, right? Everybody has to use a toothbrush, but you don't want me to sell you a toothbrush in the bathroom because you don't want to hang out in the bathroom. So that's really just a mentality that you have to switch, is that it's not about what you're selling to them. How can you introduce it into their everyday life where they already are and play on their feelings? Emotions sell, not facts.
Yeah. Kimberly, you've just sparked this thing for me. I want to take it one step back a little bit before we dig into social. You mentioned it just a second ago. We all have these target personas that are our audience that we're going after. If you're a small business or even a big business, what do you think is the best way to sort of identify who your target persona is so that you can start meeting them where they're at on social or through your other marketing process?
Well, usually when you create your business, you'll have an idea of who you want to be your target audience. And that's really who you start off is who you want to be.
Yeah.
But pretty quickly on doing the measurability, you'll be able to find out who is.
Yeah.
And you always market to two people, your current client and who you want to be your current client.
Yeah.
So your current client is actually more important in marketing than who you're trying to reach. And I think a lot of people try to go the reverse. Let me send out the message to who I want to work with, not who I'm already working with. You really need to nurture who's your family already. And when you're doing that, word of mouth, shareability, that is huge, right? Like and you can build the ladder that way. Social media and bringing it back to that. And Kathy and I were just talking the other day. She happens to be in the room. Sorry. I'll cut that out. All right, I'll backtrack so I can cut that out. I was talking to somebody the other day, and there's a post, and if you hold down, it will show you who your 4 favorite friends are. What it's showing you is who the algorithm is, who wants to be your followers, who's your family on the algorithm, everybody's trying to figure out an algorithm. There's nothing to it, guys. It's an engagement. If I'm friends with ER and ER likes it, the algorithm is going to wonder if I like it. And it's going to show me something of guys if they're friends. If I engage with it, I'll continue to see it. If I do not, I won't see it again. Until ER puts out something that gets 1.2 thousand views on it. Then they're like, oh, that's a lot more than what he was getting 100 views on. This might be something that everybody wants to see. And then the algorithm opens the doors. There's really not a whole complex. They like to pretend there is, but there's not. It's engagement. You want the reach and the engagement. And the more people who are liking it, the more people are going to invite to the party. That's how social media works in its generic form.
You make it sound so easy, but for guys like Guy and I, it seems complex. What would you say is like the first step that a small business owner can take to start at least extending their reach out on social to either get in front of their ideal customer or, like you said, the customers they have right now?
Just start being active. And consistency. That's the thing. You have to have a strategic plan, and it doesn't have to be overthought. From a mom and a pop up to big scale, it does not need to be overthought. It doesn't need to always be so trendy like Motivational Monday and, Transformational Tuesday. You don't have to stick with that, but those are easy to start with. So start there. If that's the easiest thing you can come up with, Motivational Monday, what's going to motivate you personally for that week? Share that with everybody else. You don't have to come up with some genius new thinking. Everybody's already said it before. Now, how are you going to apply it? It's one of those things. And when you bring it back to top of mind, which is marketing, that's the basis of everything that social media is. You're bringing it back to the top of mind. You want your name to be in front of them 7 times before they're ever going to even remember it. So that's basic advertising, is 7 times before anybody will ever remember what your name is. So again, consistency. Come up with some plan. If you don't have time to be out there, nobody needs to be a social media manager, and you don't have to post a million. You create things for social media. You do not need to be a content creator when you're a business owner. You do not have to come up with the new trends. You don't even have to dance. You don't have to use the trending music, even though that helps. But you do have to say something. So video what you do in the day. Video you behind your desk. Video you taking a shipment in. What do they want to see? They want to see behind the scenes. They want to know more about you. Not what you want them to think, not what you want to sell them the bed of roses, but who you are. They want to see you walking in Cancun last week and spilling your knowledge. Like you're on vacation, but your mindset was still business focused. That's who you are. You just showed more about you in that one post than saying, oh, use our product, try Shuffle, try Tap, because that doesn't tell who you are, even though we know you love it. Now you just gave an insight to the audience of who you are and what you're thinking like, and that you're always trying to move the business forward and offering new tools. Yeah. That was from another interview that Guy had done. They played on his last name. I shared that the other day, and I was like, that's such an obvious connection and never even really made it. So you can be a marketing genius and you don't have to overlook the very simple things. It's a tool that you can use. Play into whatever is easy and available for you. It does not have to be genius. Ask questions. If you want to know what they want to know, ask them. That's called your engagement post. What am I missing out of my business that you guys want? What more do you need to hear from me that I haven't answered? They'll give you the content that you need to provide for them because they're going to tell you. Look in your inbox. How many people have asked you a certain thing? Your frequently asked questions on those should be your first things. That's your go-to right away. That's your first amount of content. And for a small business, even big businesses, in all honesty, it's consistency. 2 to 3 times a week showing up is going to change the game for you. The more you do, the more active you are, the more in space you'll be. My sister owns a small business here in the DFW area. Social media is the vein of her existence. She feels like every time she posts, not only does she gain followers, but she loses followers. That's the game. It's going to keep happening because people are playing a strategy you don't even know behind there. So you can't really let that affect you either. You can't look at, oh, well, I just got a like and I got an unlike. The needle just always need to be moving up. Slowly watch that. You can get really excited if a post takes off and does very well. And you're like, oh, my engagement is up so much. Look at this growth of 300%. Well, hold on to that because in 28 days when it resets, it's going to make it look like you're down and you're like down 75%. So to me, those numbers, you need to pay attention and over time track, but continue to watch the needle move. And in all the things on social media, they give you great tools that are already provided for you for analytics to go back and look at what's happening. It even shows you what time you should post. It tells you when your audience is looking. And these are all very readily available tools that I'd be happy to. I think on the Affiliate Fridays, we're going to start kind of showing people. If I show you where to look, you'll see. And once you see, you can't unsee it. You'll know.
I want to call out two things that I've heard so far, and please correct me if I'm wrong in this. But Guy, you and I always talk about, one, you've got to learn something. But even if you've just learned it, if you've just heard something that Kimberly's talking about here, the next most important step is you've got to implement it. And you got to implement it. And to Kimberly, your point, you have to be consistent with it. At minimum 2 to 3 times per week, you want to be generating posts on social, minimum, and be active and be real and be authentic. These are all things that are common themes, Guy, that you and I have talked about and have heard from other thought leaders. And it sounds like, Kimberly, you're sort of validating that whole thing. The other thing we talk about a lot is the old saying, whatever gets measured gets managed. And you talk about the data, and how important that is. And the thing that you mentioned to me, it's not about a singular post, right? It's almost like using a yo-yo as you ride an escalator. It goes up and down, but as long as it's trending up,
yes,
long term, that's what you should care about, right? And it's just a matter of being active, being consistent, and watching for the long-term trend. Am I completely off base, or is the layman like me starting to understand? Okay.
It's kind of like glass half full, glass half empty. It's how you look at it. To me, every single piece of material putting out onto social media, you're depositing into your bank of knowledge for when they do come look for you, because you're actually giving information for the client that you're not going to meet until 2 years from now.
Yeah.
But in 2 years, they're going to go to that landing page and they're going to find out. And even if you're talking about your message and you feel like you've said it a million times, you're not talking to yourself. You're talking to your current client and the one you want to have. So there's a time and a place. The offers, the newness, of course, it's who is going to be in your family. Anything that you have new, you want to offer that to your family first. Whoever's following you, give them the inside to the goods, right? But then you're hoping that they'll share that. But a lot of it becomes, don't post just to post. You don't want to just knock off 3 things. And I need to clarify that, okay? I don't want anybody to go out there and be like, okay, if I post 3 times and I'm going to go on Monday and I'm just going to post 3 things out there. No. That's not exactly how it works either. You could do that. And then I would ask you, only post on Mondays. It's just going to take you 5 times as long to get where you want to go. You can't do that if that's not where your market is. I actually have a community center page and I only post once a week. It gets plenty of traction because people want to be there. I'm not selling them anything. They want to be there. It's a different market. So that once a week is all I need. I don't need to maintain that and keep their engagement all week, and I don't have time to. But on your business, you do, because you're constantly wanting to bring new eyes onto it. And who you're feeding is the algorithm.
Yeah.
And a dog fed does tricks. So I put it back in my dog world here. So that's the consistency. Who you're helping there is not only dropping into your bank of knowledge, but you're telling the platform, I'm here, I'm consistent, let them hear my message, and they'll reward you for that. But you have to pay attention to what you're doing. Now, the tools and the tricks behind it, that's when you get either somebody to come in and work with you, or you want the trending audio, do you want the effects, are you asking the questions to engage? And honestly, that moves the needle only 10% further. It is not something that everybody needs to master and everybody needs to know. And just so everybody knows on here, here's breaking news. Reels are done, posts are back. I think everybody's going to love that news. So you do not have to sing and dance, and you don't have to make video of yourself all the time. You can have the post that says like an advertisement. Can I talk to that real quick? I think that's kind of an important thing about social media.
Please share away.
I think one way that people can wrap their heads around social media is that social media came onto the site and became really hard during COVID, because that's where everybody was. Everybody was online. We weren't able to see each other. And it was free tool then. Everybody knows it's not quote unquote free anymore, right? Like, yes, you can go out there and be free, but the time investment in it is not free. That is not free. Spending an hour making a reel is not free. So categorize what you're considering free and make sure it's the best spend on your time. Then look at social media as reels being the commercials. That's the video. That's where you're watching the Super Bowl commercials. Your posts are your magazine ads. When you're flipping through the magazine in the doctor's office, you land on it for a second. Did it catch you enough? Or are you flipping the page? That's your post. The stories that everybody is shortcutting and reading, that is definitely a greeting card to somebody in your family. It is not somebody you don't know. Your stories are not going to go to any new people. That is your followers right now. So where you're posting and how you're posting is important to pay attention to too. So if you can kind of look at it, those are your 3 major segments. And live, of course, is a live event. You're going to a concert with them right now. And social loves that. We have something coming on right now. Tune in. And so they notify everybody for you. So you just built yourself up there. That's why they ask for live. Don't go live every day. You'll make your followers irritated. So you have to be careful not to abuse who's giving you their time. Once a week, once a month, depending on your platform. That's all you need to do. But you made yourself real to the people. You're not just something behind a board that's constantly just advertising to them. You're talking to them. Have thought-provoking conversations with them.
So do you have a general rule that you would offer to people when you talk about things like reels versus posts versus stories versus lives? And thank you for the primer on some of the differences of those, where you're saying don't go live every day. Is there a good rule of like, here's how often you do reels versus stories versus posts versus those lives?
I don't know if there's ever a rule, so to speak, but I have a couple things that I could probably give on tips on that. Live, if you're going to go live, think about what time you're going live. Do you want to go at 9 o'clock in the morning when everybody's in rush hour traffic or getting in and settling down on Monday morning? No, you do not. You want to go live when people have time to watch you.
Lunch.
After dinner. Lunch after dinner. Nobody wants to watch you at 8 o'clock in the morning while they're getting ready to go to work. Like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, hit or miss. It depends who your audience is. If they're in front of their medium at that time, fine. Yeah. Again, it all has to do to your target audience. You need to know who you're talking to and fine tune that on a regular basis, because it will constantly change. And I will say that, like people, every day we change, right? Every single day there's a new element, some new level or layer to us. Not a drastic change. It's not like you're not going to recognize the person walking in the room, but something else has happened and you need to pay attention to that, and so that when the haircut does happen, you're ready to adjust with a hat if you need to, So it's really just following your audience and paying attention. So live, you need to go live when they can actually pay attention to you.
Makes sense.
You don't want to go live at midnight. I mean, unless you're a concert promoter, and you have some sneak peek coming. Again, you need to pay attention to who your audience is. Posts, carousels are where it's at right now. And a carousel, I'll explain that, is literally a magazine ad that took 5 pages of the magazine. So they're kind of an article in the magazine. And the reason that helps you is the social media platform will share page 1 the first day and share page 2 the second day. And if it gets enough engagement, it's going to keep sharing page 3 and page 4 and continually. I want to point out, life cycle of most social media is 12 to 24 hours. That's your time investment too. So you need to remember that. And that means that it's live and engaging for 12 to 24 hours. Now, if somebody hasn't been onto their social and comes back a week later, you'll still show up because they're following you, but you will not get any new eyes on that a week later. It all has to do in that 12 to 24 hours. And again, this is generalizing because nobody has the specifics on this, right? We're all guessing this algorithm's brain, but that's what is kind of a consistent agreement that that's the life cycle of these posts. However, if you meet somebody, whenever I do business with somebody, I do go check out their social media. It says a lot to me about how they care about how they're presenting themselves to their clientele too. If they're constantly managing, and a lot of people, when I start working with them, I can see, they've been putting the posts. They've been sharing the content. They've been consistent. They're just not doing it at the right time. They're not adding the tags to where they need to be. Like if you're in South Carolina, you need to tag that you're in South Carolina if that's where your business is going to be. If you're targeting people to come to a house for sale in South Carolina, then you need to tag that post is in South Carolina. It will help filter down who the algorithm and the media people are going to share it with. Now you have a company that's worldwide, you need to find out where your target markets are and then watch them and then find where you want to be and target it. If you are not in Denver, Colorado right now and you want to be, start tagging Denver, Colorado. You're just telling them where you want to show up. You're placing your billboard on that highway, if that makes some sense.
Definitely does. It definitely does. Talk a little bit to the cost of what some things can be. As there's paid social media, then there's the organic traffic. What what value would each one of those present to just a small, medium-sized business, and which route would an individual think is most effective for them, as well as knowing that there's multiple platforms? Like, where should people look at focus?
Budget is going to come down to it again. So you can do the paid ads on Instagram and Facebook and all of that too. I'm much more a believer in organic growth because you're already spending the time on investing. It's not free. None of this is free. Let's not even kid ourselves. Social media is not a free platform anymore. Your time is money. Mm-hmm. So take the time that you're putting that organic growth, and either you do that to create the reel or to create the carousel. If you don't have that time, that's when you pay for the post and let the algorithm boost it. So now if you have a special event, that would be a time where I would say you might want to do some ads around it to boost it. You're padding up something that is really a targeted, in 2 years when they come back from it, you don't even need that to be on your social media because it was a time and place thing. Many people will probably disagree with me because they like to spend the money of some people, but I am not a big proponent on spending the money in Facebook ads and manager ads. That, to me, you're better served making sure that the content you're telling the people is well crafted than spending money at a flat post that's not going to go anywhere but gave you extra reach. That's my opinion on it. Amanda's probably going to be mad at me for that. But that's the truth.
I love that. I think that is speaking to the majority of businesses, of all of the individual entrepreneurs, the ones that are the trash man CEO, whatever they're doing in their businesses, and trying to find that time. Because yes, time is finite for all of us, but there's a cost to it. And I love that you had mentioned that. You had talked about being able to adjust throughout all of this, because all these platforms have different algorithms and how to do things, and some things work, some things don't work. Can you give us an example of if someone were to implement something today at its lowest cost, so time, what platform and what would someone probably see the most return on their time?
It's going to depend on what age their target audience is. Simple as that. We'll go up the ladder. If you're younger, TikTok, that's why I said TikTok first, right? The trend sets on TikTok because the young generation is on that. So all of our trends are coming from that. And then the older you get, you just try to be cool, right? We all understand that. So TikTok is the youngest generation on the platform. So if you have a young audience, like if my brand was Coca-Cola when I worked for them, I actually had a whole initiative that we did to try to get Coke to be related to Friday Night Football. So Friday Night Football is a whole campaign I did. We got Coke into the schools, selling school systems. So we wanted to be young, and we went with Elify. We got cards that went around. At that time, it was like the lists, and I don't know if you guys remember that when you're doing that. But we became very grassroots and went into the markets, let them see cool kids using the product in high schools. But again, they're not the purchasers. But who are they going to go home and say, Mom, I want Coke, Mom, I want Coke, Mom, I want Coke, Mom, I want Coke, Mom, I want Coke. So you are advertised to them, but then your price point needed to be good in the store. So my audience there being young would have been TikTok, even though that wasn't available back then. I had to go into the stores. So I would start with TikTok. Then you drip that campaign to the next. Again, that's the purchaser. Who's going to be there? Instagram is now where you're seeing that's becoming much more. Facebook is flocking over to Instagram. I don't know if you've noticed that or not, especially for businesses now. Facebook has been a personal share site. And then Instagram came on to be more, businesses took advantage of it more. I don't know if that was their original goal for it. So now Facebook is trying to catch up and be like, oh, our big sister kind of is outshining us. But we have a little bit of an older audience on Facebook because we've grown up with Facebook since it entered. And by older audience, I'm saying 35 to 55 versus your TikTok being, as low as 12, now 13, whatever, we'll say 13, to 25 is probably the main audience for TikTok. But then shortly after that is everybody else. It's not a big differentiator on TikTok. Now, Instagram and Facebook, big differentiator. Facebook is definitely 45 up, and Instagram fills in the in-between. YouTube, again, channel. It's going to be reached to everybody. YouTube has a very, very, very huge young audience, like toddler age audience, and then information seekers. It doesn't have an age. So that's where your channel and your platform, and that's when you use your social media to drive them to your YouTube channel. So while YouTube is considered social, it is not a source that you could actually drive people to if you don't have a way of promoting it. It does not self-promote except in shorts, and not necessarily in the same way that social media is geared where you can tag who, and I can show this too, I can give some people some background and cheats. You can actually now tag 3 things, 3 topics. So you can help the algorithm know who you want to share it to. So in businesses, I'm often using entrepreneur, small business, teaching methods, career development. They allow for those. I have dog boarding place too. Pet care is one that I can, but then it's just like funny animals. So some of the things don't really, you don't always want to use them. You know, they don't have every category for you. So there's a different age. And again, for the different platforms, TikTok being youngest, Instagram being mid, Facebook being older. And again, all kind of feeding into the YouTube genre, which are the most active social media platforms right now, just so that we get that clear too. There are others out there, but those are the ones that if you're going to spend your time, that's where you should be right now.
Do you feel like LinkedIn plays much of a role in social media, or would you consider that something else?
LinkedIn has kind of gone through some changes. At first, it started that it was very much B2B, right? And it was more businesses talking to each other. And then they tried really hard to jump on and do everything that everybody else was doing. So right now, LinkedIn, you can kind of be whatever you want to be on LinkedIn, but that's one to watch. That's changing. Nobody has that one quite figured out. So you're welcome to do whatever you want on LinkedIn, but remember, you're a business talking to another business there. So you want to be getting, not saying that that business owner isn't a human and, you know, utilizing consumer goods. So remember that as well. But that's not where you're dancing. That's not, you should be class picture ready, dressed up for the class pictures in school. Is that a good analogy, I guess? You know, a little nicer that day than you would be. You can be a little bit more relaxed on the social media platforms, and I would suggest you be on LinkedIn.
I gotcha. It seems more.
And again, LinkedIn is changing right now. There's a lot to happen with LinkedIn. And then there's Twitter. Twitter's aggressive. If you have something to say and you have no problem with what you have to say and you're ready to back it up, go out on Twitter. If you just want drips to go in and advertise, you don't need to be on Twitter. Twitter's not your place for advertising your business.
It feels like Twitter may be a little bit more, if you have a topic that's very polarizing, because then it creates conversation from both sides, let's say.
Which is amazing because you want the engagement.
Engagement.
But what I'm telling you is if you don't have the backbone to have it, don't get on that stage. That, you know, so that's kind of where Twitter is.
Gotcha.
You don't want to go out onto something where you're immediately going to be embarrassed because you can't back up yourself either. So watch the Twitter, see what people are posting and tweeting, and see if there's a way that you could do it in a way that is the least combative. I guess that's the way I could say that. It has its time and place, but I don't think that it's for every small business.
Kimberly, let me ask you this. You mentioned this at the beginning of our conversation, a bit about us and the way we post ourselves and the way we engage with our family of our existing audience and the way we be authentic and that type of stuff. How much of our social posting should be about us and that stuff versus our product, our service, our brand, and stuff that is more like an ad?
Again, that's going to depend on who you are. So if you're a small business, like a one-person show, then you want to show who you are because you're selling yourself. You are your brand. So then you do need to drip yourself into that, because you're building the trust with somebody, and they don't want to see just who you put on in the pretty makeup. They want to kind of know when you mess up, right? They want to see you're human. Yeah. But then when you have a small business that, say, is a brick and mortar, what your personality then is your day-to-day activity. Yeah. Show what it's like to come in and turn the lights on and, look at the calendar. What is your day like? Who do you take lunch with? Who do you take coffee with? What does your conference room look like? What does your cubby look like? You could show who you are in that aspect. Now go big business. Same thing. Meet the team. That's when you go around and you meet the team. Yeah. Everybody wants to know who is the face behind the brand. And you got to show who's working for you, shows who you are. Yeah. As we're doing here. Correct?
Makes sense. Well, and I know I've met a lot of people who either they're very entrepreneurial and they've started their own business and they are an aspect of their brand, like you've talked about. And then I meet a lot of people who are representatives of a bigger brand, right? They're just one voice of many voices that might be promoting that product or that service or that brand out there. And it sounds like the better aspect is not to promote the same product or service or brand that everybody's out there just saying, here it is, this is what you need, but why you as an individual are, aligning yourself with that product or that service, because people are really, to your point, buying into you and who you are and why you align yourself with that product or service versus the product or service itself. Is that correct?
So when you're aligning with somebody, I would look at yourself as a walking testimonial. Mm-hmm. You are a testimonial. You are that brand's representative. And you need to share why. Why did you go in hook, line, and sinker with this company? Why did you align with this company? Why did you decide to represent it? Share it. Now, that company, I'm sure, and I'll speak to several, say, MLMs. If you team up with an MLM and then you've created a team and then you have a team underneath you, that MLM provides you with advertising. They tell you about their product. Obviously, that's how you learned about it in the first place. But that's serving me a plain bagel. Mm. I kind of want to put some cream cheese on it. I might want blueberry the next day. Like, what made you like it? Everybody doesn't want the plain bagel served to them every single day. You have to add a little bit of character to it. And that's where your personality comes in. And that's why you're representing it. So you need to think of yourself as the Michael Jordan that's out there promoting the shoes. That's how it works. And that's what they're counting on too. But Michael Jordan wouldn't just come up and put a pair of shoes in front of you. I mean, now he can. Right? Like, let's be, because it works. But that's where you have to talk about why. Tell what it does for you and why you chose to align with it. Because somebody's going to be like, well, I'm not sure, but I need that lipstick. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It moisturized my lips. It had all this stuff, and it helps donate to Save the Whales. I don't know, whatever the platform is, something that everybody has a social side to their business too, and show that personality, show that feeling to the business. It lets people emotionally connect, and emotions are where purchases are made. Yeah. It's usually not a smart decision when the money's spent, even though you're trying to get people to be smart about how they spend their money. It usually falls down 90% of the time to an emotional decision. They'll rationalize it however they need to.
Yeah. I want to quickly, Guy, if you're okay with this, I know you might have some questions, but I want to do a shift. You've been talking about things that we should be doing. Do you have like a short list or maybe some thoughts about what we shouldn't be doing on social media, or some common mistakes you see being made, even if it's sort of reversing the mirror of what you were just talking about, just to call that out in clarity for people who might be watching this? This is almost your not to-do list, if you will.
Very good. First off, social media isn't about you. It's about being social. So if you're only out there and posting about you and not engaging with who your followers are, and not going out and seeking new people to follow, and not commenting and not liking, you're the jerk in the room. Sorry. You're the one showing up at the party and not talking to anybody. Yeah. So if you post and you put that out, you're going to post at 9, on Monday, 6 on Wednesday, and 3 on Friday. You've got your 3. You took my advice, but did you engage with your own audience? Because if you didn't, the algorithm sees that too. So if you're not utilizing the tool the way you want them to utilize the tool, stop using the tool. And that's what I mean by people go out there, and I've seen a lot that I'll do an audit. They've been showing up. They have posts. It looks like, I go up to their Instagram page. They've only had the Instagram for a year, and they already have 448 posts. Okay, that's telling me they're posting twice a day, half of the year, right? Like, that's a significant amount of posts. But they're getting 10 people to like it. And the same 10 people over and over and over again. You've wasted a lot of your time. You need to catch that soon. Figure out why. Why is only 10? What do I need to change that? Are you talking to them? Are you just dropping it and walking away? Because then you're wasting time again. And sometimes there would be a better reason not to be on social media then. If that's what you think you need to do to be on social media, is post 3 times a day and walk away, you've missed the message of the social aspect of it. It is a social platform, and it is highly designed for engagement. In the past year, anybody who's been on here and has been on social media understands that reels have been the thing, because reels get reach. Reach is not engagement, and that needs to be a real definition, and that's why I think post is coming back. Because reach means everybody might want to see how you're using that trendy song with your message. It doesn't really mean they want your product. However, you want big reach to try to grab a new. That's the net you're casting out there to try to bring in your followers. But your day-to-day posts, your stories, your engagement, the questions, the polls, all the little things that they give you, figure out how to use them, figure out how to talk. Even if it's crickets, when you're scrolling, and everybody at home knows this, you don't like every single thing that you go by, but you still absorbed it. You still, and if it resonated with you and you didn't know that person, you might not like it because you're like, oh, I'm going to look like a stalker. I don't know who that person is. I'm not going to like their page. But wow, they just said something that was super powerful to me. So remember that too, that you are depositing into it. Ooh, and I would want to get this in here really quick. If you're going to use a reel, you need to do something in the first 3 seconds that makes them want to stay watching, or they're just going to go by. And that is usually just movement, not even what you say. Start off crummy at the video and come up. Go to a slide. Be moving. Don't be stationary. Wave. Do the double wave. Whatever. Something that changes your eye. We are very
visual
squirrel people. And so that's what they're playing to. And so there are tricks, and that's where you get somebody who wants somebody's help to come in and figure it out. But that's when you're in a market that's saturated and you're trying to find that breakthrough difference. But mostly you want to cater to your current audience. And that's why that reach goes out there. You pull in the net, bring them in, and then you don't have to do all the crazy things, and you don't have to tap dance. You just share your message, and you provide different opportunities for them to work with you, engage with you, talk to you. Put that call, put the message me now button. Have that on there. Do not put a post that sends them nowhere unless all you're doing is filling your metrics for the algorithm. And there's a time and place for that too. So the other do nots, don't follow and unfollow. A lot of people use that as a trick. Follow me trains, follow to unfollow. If you're not meant to be with each other, don't follow for follow reasons. The algorithm will see through that, and it also actually will end up hurting you because they're not going to engage with your content. And so if you get a bunch of mass followers, I know a lot of the things, it's tempting to, now I've been hit up, we'll pay us $30 and we guarantee you 5,000 followers. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because 5,000 followers who aren't following you is nothing. And the algorithm will see it as if you actually don't have the content for anybody to care. So you would rather have 2 people following you who loved you every day than 5,000 people following who never talked to you. That's kind of simple, but I think people get caught up in the semantics of, look how many followers I have. It really doesn't matter. I would really want you to have 10 followers if that's what you need to support your business and they're engaging with you. And maybe get 2 here and here that fall on and off as you're courting them. That should be the courtship, right? And there will be times where maybe we'll work out, maybe we won't. But usually when you're in social media, you don't divorce either. You don't unfriend, right? Like you don't go through and just start saying, all of a sudden, I'm going to stop following all these. You have the time and place on a personal, but not on a business. That doesn't often happen on a business. So one of the things when you're being gatekeeper, don't friend everybody. Don't invite everybody to be your friend. And as soon as they follow you, don't follow them back right away. Look at their page, give them that respect. They ask to follow you. They have something that you think that they may want. Look at them and see if there's an alignment. And that's where you get your collaborations too. Don't be afraid right then. Oh, I have something. I know this person. I did it the other day on an Elify post. I had actually been in a book club. I don't know him, Matthew Dix, at all, but I happened to be reading it, and he wrote back to us. You know, a published author immediately wrote back and said, thanks for sharing. For people out there on the platform too. It's not necessarily AI yet. Yeah, I'll caveat that with yet.
So what I'm what I'm pulling out of this, and I hope everyone else is these are platforms that in the broad essence are called social for a reason, to be social, to share information to your audience and potentially new individuals that might have an interest in you, and it's being authentic. We'll go back to the interview with Kathy and being authentic and not just posting to post to try to get eyeballs, but also interacting with other people's posts to show that there's a real person behind this. Because going to my next question is we're not going backwards. We're getting more and more advanced in technology and this digital aspect. And we're now seeing a lot of people tinkering with these artificial intelligence platforms. And there's content creation and there's video creation, websites, all these different types of things that are coming into play. And we are even joking about seeing one where this individual went out to his team and said, I want you to find an artificial intelligence that will replace each one of you. And that's potentially could be a scary thing in people's businesses. But I think it might be a leading question into where do you feel artificial intelligence is going to make a play into social platforms? And can it replace all of us in our own businesses, in our own social platforms?
Well, good question, because AI showed up on the social platform about a month ago. So strong, it's not funny. But everybody should be really, really, really excited about it and not scared. It is not a cheat. It cannot replace you, because trust me, when you ask it questions, it gets there, but not always. But use it as like you basically just got a partner, another person sitting on your shoulder that you can bounce back and forth and have a personal brainstorm with right there on your computer and take you to the next level. On social media, it also is going to save you about 10 to 15 minutes. You already know what your idea is before you came up with the post. And honestly, you could actually ask the AI to help you with it if you didn't. But you should kind of already know before, because you strategically thought out what your message is. But then you talk to the AI. What would somebody want to know about that? Ask them, how would you say this? They'll write it and they'll say something silly, but they may have a word in there that you're like, ooh, that word, right? That's that brainstorm, that collaboration that you're almost having with artificial intelligence to help you fine tune the message. And something that would take you and maybe a little clunky, and even coming as a writer, writers have writer's block. And sometimes you're like, I don't want to say the and them and the again. How do I say this? It helps them. Oh, okay, great. You know, but then you have to make sure it matches your voice. And that's a good thing with AI too, is you can actually kind of tell it to be witty or informational, but don't just copy and paste whatever it spits out, because trust me, you're not going to want that either. Trust me. I found some interesting things on people that I was like, where are they pulling this from? And that has nothing to do with this. Okay. So it's not fine-tuned yet. But if I was a small business owner, well, I am a small business owner, I was very excited to hear about AI. And I was the first one to jump in and start playing with them and tried several different ones. I think they're all fighting with each other and they're all going to get better. So just keep watching, keep trying different ones. ChatGPT, of course, is out there and offers a pretty good one for free to use. I've worked with Jasper as well. and that steps it up, but it gets a lot more detail. So it's depending on what you're needing. But use it as like the friend that you don't get to call. You don't have to have the conference with you right now. Okay, I want to do this post. It needs to be about this. You don't have to think of it by yourself. Your friend ChatGPT can talk to you about it anytime you want to. So that's how I think the AI is I definitely think it's a building block that's going to keep helping us accelerate and fine tune and making it not so clunky, I guess is the word, even though I want to caveat that with cringe is okay. Cringe is okay. I know the young generation is, oh, that's so cringy, blah, 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 because we're a little polished, whatever. It's okay to be unpolished as well, because again, that makes you human. And so if you do spell something wrong, and I'm putting this to my own self, maybe, I am the best writer who can't spell very well. So it happens to most of us. You have the thought. If you mess up, be human, admit it, say, oh, sorry, spelled Thursday wrong. Didn't mean to. Sometimes you can't fix that on social media, and people on social media will understand that. There are some things you can't fix and some things you can. But then just let people, okay, should I have slowed down? Should I have had a proofreader? Should I have had an editor? Yes, sometimes we don't have a lot of time for that either. Human, you got the message. And you know what it just did? It helps your engagement because they saw you as real. Not necessarily the way you wanted to, but you were real. And then they'll relate to you that, oh, she's not always 100% perfect. They're not always 100% perfect. Even that, and again, not to something that you've actually detrimentally done something horrible, right? Like, well, in the news. But then you just actually have a human element to yourself. And don't beat yourself up. If you say you're going to post 3 times a week and 1 week you can't, and you only post once, get back on the train when you can. That's all you have to do. It is not, oh, I missed the boat for 3 weeks and I can't go back and reintroduce my page. I hear a lot of people say that too. Oh, I haven't worked my page in a while. I don't think my followers are there anymore. Well, you won't know until you start talking to them again. Yeah, I mean, don't just scrap it. That's my advice.
I want to shift really quick as we begin to wind this down. Guy, you were talking about technology advancing forward in this digital world we live in. I want to shift over to something Guy and I talk a lot about, which is the U economy and how social might play a role in this. We know people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And when we talk about being authentic, engaging with our audience, really starting to interact more and not just post. What are your thoughts on how much social will play a role in the U economy and allowing 2 people, maybe a buyer and a provider of a product or service, to really connect and start to build that initial relationship? Or is that already here and it's been going on since social began?
That's kind of the element of the engagement, right? Like if you want to not only having, like you're out on a search, right? Every time you put that out there, you're searching, you're going out finding it. The more you engage, the more the algorithm is going to bring it to you. They're going to know what you're doing. And so they're going to open that up and actually take out some of that search for you. And the more they know who's going after the same things. They see what you're Googling. They see what you're looking at. It all starts going in when you start seeing a particular person following these people, and they seem to all be following ChatGPT, for instance, right now. Like I started looking at it one time, and now I have a lot of sponsored ads for them. But to me, they're wasting their money. That's why I think they're wasting money, because I looked at it one time. I already got what I needed off of it. But again, the more you start doing it, it follows your pattern and your behavior. If you keep going to McDonald's, when the babysitter comes, they're going to take you to McDonald's. They're not going to take you to Burger King. So that's the same thing. If you keep going in your same pattern, it'll start knowing what to feed you and what you like to eat. Occasionally, it'll introduce something new for you to try. Depends on how much you engage with it. It'll stop offering it on the menu or keep offering it up on the menu.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
This has been, it goes back, right. The same thing. I mean, it goes true in, this has been, it goes back, right. The same thing. I mean, it goes true in every interview, is the authentic aspect, or just being real, is what we all are. It's human nature, and that's what people are drawn to. Some people are drawn to it in a negative way, and you get negative feedback on your social posts, and people feel bad whenever they see those types of things. But I think we all just need to look at the messaging and the idea that we're all human. There's going to be mistakes happen. There's going to be some people not like our message. Some will. But it's being consistent in what we do. It's being authentic in what we do. And in a different realm for a lot of people in social. Kimberly, you've expressed to people, I believe watching here, and everyone should be able to share this out to others, is there's nothing different about all of us. We all probably have the same thoughts. And there's fear behind getting behind the camera and doing the TikTok dances and doing those different types of things. But it's getting past those hurdles, getting past our mindset, and implementation of ourselves, our passions, what we are and want to be. Is social is as powerful as a platform as there is for anybody.
Agreed.
And don't be afraid of it. It's not that scary. It's really not. There's nothing that you can do. And again, 12 to 24 hours is a good thing. Another aspect too, it's not out there forever. You can move on. And the delete is always there. But sometimes you don't want to delete because engagement's good, even if you did make a mistake. I would just be out there and be human. Find a platform that you're already on. Who are you following? What are they like? How could you relate it? Do something very, very, very simple. If somebody you saw do something, figure out how could you insert your product and what they were doing. Mimicking is a lot of what social media is, so don't be afraid to do that. Copycat is okay on social media. Yes, you can be different, and yes, that will probably be standing out more. But when you're getting into it, the good news is you're allowed to copycat. You're allowed to do exactly what everybody else is doing with the same trending song. But you're going to your people, so your people are going to see that. So that's why, like, it's okay. They kind of give you the cheats to come out of your comfort zone. And I've grown with that too here. Like marketing for other companies, I always had to put them in front. I never had to be front and center. So I've had to overcome hurdles with that too, because now, the camera turns around and you're like, oh, yeah, you got to practice what you're preaching.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And not all of us want to be supermodels and on in front of the camera. But if you're okay sitting down in a coffee shop with somebody and having this conversation, you should be just as okay as having this. Yes, you'll go back and pick it apart, get over it, move on. It's just another day.
I love it. I've got one final question before we begin to wrap things up, Kimberly. My final question is for those people who've been thinking, wow, I really need to up my social media game. They may be thinking that they've got two decisions to make: either take it all on themselves or work with somebody who's already an expert at social media and allow them to leverage their expertise. Obviously, there's an additional expense to doing things like that. What would you recommend to people given that? And if they are going down the route of working with somebody, something to look out for so that they're not just paying somebody else to do the 2 to 3 blanket posts?
They have to understand your brand. Because if they're not able to engage with you and for you, if you're asking somebody else just to post for you, and again, you're not planning on doing the engagement and the follow through, make sure that you've either paid for that they're going to, or again, you're wasting your time and your money. Yeah. You have to kind of try it yourself first. Yeah. You kind of know what you need help with. So there are so many avenues that you can go down to ask for help, right? You could go to a big agency if you're a big company. You could ask your neighbor who happens to have a small business and is doing it and she's killing it in that game. Yeah. There are several online people out there that advertise. That's one of the biggest things on social media platforms is how to help you. So there's online coaches out there too. And then if you get involved in any of your networks in your community, you start networking, you'll start seeing who else has a community. Where is that following? Where in your area are people following a social club? There's several of them out there and you can participate. And then you kind of find your gang who you're out supporting each other too. And you've got another small business supporting you and you guys are learning together. And that's, a lot of how I did it when I first started off is I joined a social club and I went out and asked what was happening. And I found a friend of mine who had another business and she was like, I need to up my social media game. And she looked at me and she goes, I hate this. And I said, I love this. And so that's where it went. You got to get out and try. I think you do need to try for yourself just to see what it is you do and don't like. And if honestly you're that scared, ask somebody to sit down with you for 1 hour. 1 hour, who understands the social media, even if it's your 13-year-old. I mean, that's your niece, whatever, neighbor, somebody in that genre, they can explain it to you pretty good. Pretty good.
I love it.
Does not need to be a social media expert to understand how social media actually works.
Any last final thoughts or tidbits or tips that you might give to anybody?
Try something new. Be brave. That's it. Kind of to, stop doing the same thing and expecting different results. You got to try something new and you got to try it again and again and keep fine tuning it and pay attention to the metrics every time you go out there. The metrics are a big thing for me. If you're not paying attention to what's happening and where it's going, and sometimes you'll think it's great. I'll spend hours on a post that I think is so perfect and it's just going to take off and nothing. And then one that I'm just like, this is all right, but I'm going to put out there and it soars. And I'm like, really? Interesting. Okay. Let's go back and find out how I can recreate that. So sometimes the magic is in the imperfection and in the spontaneity of it. And that curated isn't always the best. So allow yourself to be on the fly. Allow yourself to jump on a live and show them where you're at and what's happening at lunch for you. Everybody wants a sneak peek.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. This has been super educational. I know we'll probably have a lot of people with questions. If you're watching this on the YouTube, feel free to throw those questions in the comments and we'll be more interactive and engaging on those as Kimberly has educated us on. Super educational, Kimberly. We'll also put Kimberly's digital card in there on the description as well if you want to connect with her. And I want to thank you so much, Kimberly, for your time today and for sharing a lot of your knowledge with everybody watching. We truly appreciate you and everything you do for us here at Elify. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.